Happy Tuesday, beautiful people. All right, y'all. Getting some notes. Oh, yeah. 17. I think that's when we started. Yeah. 15, 16, 17. Is a page missing? I'm gonna fix my pages. Happy Tuesday, beautiful people. Alisa, shalom, shalom, Vinay, greetings, sis, Elijah, peace and blessings, Shebrew, all praise to the Creator, Lavon, blessings, Hannah, grand rising, Ima, beautiful rising, bonjour, peace to the church. Avia, shalom, Jamia, hey, sis, and everybody else here hanging out in the background. On Facebook, I think everybody hanging out in the background, Facebook. But anyway, top of the day to you both. Facebook and YouTube, everybody hanging out in the background. All right, beautiful people. It is Tuesday, January the 10th, 2022, day 311 of year 4 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 4-year consecutive day count, day 1330. Today, we're going to read a little bit more. Probably just 2 chapters, chapter 15 and 16 from I'm still reading from the PDF document. When we start over, I'll be looking at the computer screen again. But it's what was it? I think it was just 18. I threw away my last page by mistake. We read it already anyway before we read it from the beginning. But actually, what we're going to read today, it will actually complete the book in its entirety from us reading it. But we're going to go ahead and reread these last 2. I think might be 3, might be 19. Like I said, I threw away the last page by mistake. I got to like reprint it out. Or I might just read it from the computer screen. Then we're going to start it all the way over, right? Remember, the Romance of the Red Star is another name that Owaspi was published under in 1910. So we're just kind of going through everything to see if they're, in fact, the alleged John Lant plates. And how would we really know for real, since we haven't actually seen the plates or the proofs or anything? I don't know. We're just trying to see how much different it is from Big Blue. We want to make sure we ain't missing no pieces, right? All right, y'all. So after we read that, we're gonna hop back over here to the field guide to the spirit world and read a few more pages here in chapter 10 and the Reincarnation hoax, starting on page 225. So let's go ahead and get started. Father, we thank you that you are always just. All right, y'all. So on the actual document itself, the page number at the top left corner is page 568. And we start in chapter 15, or it would say chapter XV. If you got Big Blue, it is page 568, chapter 17, chapter XVII. And the subtitle under that is Jehovah Judgeth the False Gods and Goddesses. All right, just me. Shalom, mom. Shalom. All right, y'all. The voice spake out of the light over the throne of God, saying, because I admonish both earth and heaven, saying, whosoever setteth up more than the I am shall be bound, and whoso hearkeneth unto them and runneth after them shall be bound unto them. And they heeded not my commandments, but made worshipful other gods than me. So shall they reap the harvest they have sown. Because they drew the sword to establish themselves, they are bound by the sword. Because they took upon themselves heavenly kingdoms, I bound them thereunto. Because they professed salvation in the names of false gods, I let them run their course, and behold, they have shown no salvation in heaven or earth. They have built up kingdom against kingdom, standing army against standing army. Verily, they have brought judgment upon themselves. Hear the words of Jehovah, O ye false gods and goddesses, who set up heavenly kingdoms against me, who slew hundreds of millions of mortals in order to make other names than mine worshipful on earth and in the heavens thereof. Ye who cried out falsely, behold me. I am the light and the life. Through me is the way of salvation. Ye who have used your names to lead mortals and angels away from the Creator, saying of yourselves, behold me, I am the Lord, I am God, my heavenly place is the all highest. Behold, I had spoken in the olden times, saying, whosoever taketh from my people for his own glory or dominion shall render unto me the just value. These have been my doctrines since thousands of years, and known unto you before ye deserted my kingdoms. Hear you then the judgment of Jehovah. Whosoever hath established the name of any God but the Creator, and made it worshipful on earth or in heaven, shall be bound in the first resurrection, till that name is no longer worshipful on earth or in heaven. Whew. Yeah, some of these gods and goddesses is it's they might be there for a while. Definitely the four false ones. Baal, Ashtaroth, everybody know they were shenaniganizers at this point. But Jesus, people's having a hard time letting that one go, right? Or who they set up to be Jesus, right? Listen. Hear ye then the judgment of Jehovah. Whosoever hath established the name of any God but the Creator, and made it worshipful on earth or in heaven, shall be bound in the first resurrection, till that name is no longer worshipful on earth or in heaven. And what's the first resurrection? Hotter. Or the church prefers the term hell. And whatever God or goddess hath said, come unto me, ye that are heavily laden, and I will give you rest. For I am the way of salvation, and of light, and of everlasting life. Then that God or goddess shall be bound in the first resurrection, as long as mortals or angels go unto him or her. You can meet your Savior right there. They're going to be waiting for you. They ain't going nowhere till they let you know the truth, and you both begin to walk in it. Dawn, Grand Rising, says Nazarene and sing Shalom. I ain't saying, I'm just rereading it. But let me go back up. I'm going to reread it again. Hear ye then. Let me go back up. Behold, I had spoken in the olden times, and this is Creator, true Creator speaking. Behold, I had spoken in the olden times, saying, whosoever taketh from my people for his own glory or dominion shall render unto me the just value. These have been my doctrines since thousands of years, and known unto ye before I'm sorry, that was right. And known unto you before ye deserted my kingdoms. Hear ye then the judgment of Jehovah. Whosoever hath established the name of any God but the Creator, and made it worshipful on earth or in heaven, shall be bound in the first resurrection, till that name is no longer worshipful on earth or in heaven. And whatever God or goddess hath said, come unto me. This sounds familiar to your ears. I'm sure it does. And whatever God or goddess hath said, come unto me, ye that are heavily laden, and I will give you rest. For I am the way of salvation, and of light, and of everlasting life. Then that God or goddess shall be bound in the first resurrection, as long as mortals or angels go unto him or her. And when all of you, you and the one you worship, when all of y'all, slave and master, and when all of you have purified and raised up all those who idolized you, in that same time will I raise you up to higher heavens also. Like we always keep repeating and re-emphasizing, ain't none of y'all going nowhere. So all y'all is on the same level of light, the highest amongst you all. Then we all can continue to rise together. Brother and sister, hand in hand. You help me, I help you. We need each other. And when all of you have purified and raised up those who idolize you, in that same time will I raise you up to higher heavens also. And now, when the voice ceased, remember the voice is another term for the great creator or the great spirit, the Almighty. And now, when the voice ceased and all was still, the false gods and goddesses raised up their heads, and they spake with one voice, saying, Thou art just, O Jehovah. Unto thee do I now covenant that I will serve thee forever. Neither will I aspire to rise up to higher heavens till I have raised up all whom I have led astray. Make me strong, O Jehovah, in this my everlasting covenant. Teach me, O Father, the labor I should do, that thou shalt be glorified forever. Thus ended the judgment. God's marshals removed them to the places allotted for them, and they went to work. So remember, all of these false gods that were included in this right here, just before the beginning of the Cosmon era, right? I'm going to reread these guys' name again, which was at the end of the previous chapter 14. Of the false gods and goddesses, thus delivered and brought before God in paradise for judgment. The chief of them were the ringleader of Christianity, Luamon, right? Christianity, number one, and the whole Islamic faith, right? Because Gabriel was kind of under him, right? Luamon, Kabbalites, and I think I'm still saying his name wrong. Kabbalites, Inochesa, Gabriel, Bel, Ashtaroth, Dagon, Ashdod, Yotimas, Sathias, Goluth, Plutoya, Itis, Hamgod, Moak, Hor. Besides these, there were 70 other false gods and goddesses delivered, but who were not brought before the throne of God, but were sent to hospitals because they were in chaos. God had previously provided paradise through his holy council for the time of the judgment of the false gods that were brought before him. So the holy councils were formed in crescent, so that the throne of God lay betwixt the horns thereof, in order to promote the voice. The marshals then brought the false gods and goddesses into the arena of circle, where the light should fall upon them. And what we just read before I reread this was their judgment, right? You get back the kingdoms that you have built unto yourselves, and the people that you have led astray and made slaves unto you. You got them worshiping you. That's your judgment. Your judgment is that you go clean up your mess, right? How just is that? That's a whole lot different from the churches, for those of us who come out of the church, right? That you're just gonna burn forever, right? I like this guy better. I'll see y'all later. Right? Chapter 16. Such then was the fate of the chief false gods in the lower heavens. But during the last 300 or 400 years, many of the officers of these false gods had seeded from them and had set up small heavenly kingdoms of their own, and their mortal followers were called sects. Sects. That's a lot of mess to clean up, sis. Tabitha Shalom, Selah. Peace, family. Such then was the fate of the chief false gods in the lower heavens. But during the last 300 or 400 years, many of the officers of these false gods had seeded from them and had set up small heavenly kingdoms of their own, and their mortal followers were called sects. Sects. These little heavens were, for the most part, situated on the earth, and usually these small gods inhabited the churches where mortals came to worship. And the preachers within these churches fell under the inspiration of these itinerant gods and their gangs of wandering spirits. In Gautama, these inspirations were carried to such an extent by these Drusian gods that the mortals of one sect were made hostile, one sect against another, and enmity therefore existed between Protestants and Catholics, between Protestants and themselves, and betwixt all of these and the Jews. I put the in there. It's and Jews. And not only on earth betwixt mortals did these things take place, but these petty gods had small kingdoms of their own, as a Presbyterian heaven, a Methodist heaven, a Baptist heaven, and so on. So who is leading people astray now is not actually like Luamong. Luamong trying to clean up the mess, right? But as he went into remission and he doing good, some of his gang didn't really like that, right? They weren't too hot on that news. Oh wait, I thought we got kingdoms. No, you going over here to rehab. We gonna continue out your work. No, don't no, bro. I'm telling you, we don't want to do that no more. We ain't listening to you no more, Lil Monk. We got this. You gonna head over there, goody two shoes. So Lil Monk trying to get control of the people that he screwed up, and they still screwing up down here. Gangs are in the spirit era with Catholics, Protestants, Jews, Baptists, non-denominational, and then they start breaking off into the Hebrew sects and all this other stuff, and they just making up stuff now. In Gautama, these inspirations were carried to such an extent by these Jujan gods that the mortals of one sect were made hostile against that. Hold on. That the mortals of one sect were made hostile, one sect against another. And enmity therefore existed betwixt Protestants and Catholics, and betwixt Protestants themselves, and betwixt all of these and Jews. And not only on earth, betwixt mortals did these things take place, but these petty gods had small kingdoms of their own, as a Presbyterian heaven, a Methodist heaven, a Baptist heaven, and so on. And when a mortal member died, his spirit fell into his heaven where he had lived, becoming a servant to these Druhas, or these demons, or disembodied brethren and sisterin who once walked the earth, right? Who still playing around, not growing, ain't going nowhere. They're coming back wreaking havoc in the class. Like, bruh, you 17 years old, sitting in the kindergarten class. Get your big butt out this seat and get where you belong. They ain't going nowhere, so they're wreaking havoc everywhere else here. I said it many times. Enoch chapter 15 talks a lot about it. And when a mortal member died, his spirit fell into his heaven where he had lived, becoming a servant to these Druhas. And when he cried out, I want to go to Jesus, I want to go to Christ, he was shown the Drusian God and told, that is he, which he would believe to be true. For what is bound on earth is bound in heaven. That just make that scripture come to light in a whole nother different way. They just hit a little different this morning. Let me read that again. I know I'm about to. The one my printed out version, I don't know when it ain't gonna get here, but I know I'm gonna throw this away. I'm gonna re-highlight it when I get the actual book. I think it said around about like the 17th or something. I hope it don't take that long, but if so, it is what it is. Tekva, shalom, sis, shalom. New baby false gods and making confusing folks all up in the church in Hebrew, all up in the church house. And don't none of them know no better. And when a mortal member died, his spirit fell into his heaven where he had lived, becoming a servant to these Druhas. And when he cried out, I want to go to Jesus, I want to go to Christ, he was shown the Drusian God and told, that is he, which he would believe to be true. For what is bound on earth is bound in heaven. A Drusian God, Piad, established a sect and named it Mormon. And he located his kingdom on earth with his mortal followers, and he became master over the spirits of his mortal followers in the same way, calling himself the true Christ. Now, you know what? I think recently, the last couple times, we've been to a hotel. Like all the times we done stayed in a hotel, they always got the Holy Bible in the desk. Nowadays, they got the Holy Bible and the Book of Mormon side by side. And I ain't too hot on any of them. I opened up the journal like, this is blasphemy, side by side. Close the drawer back. Look. A Drusian god, Piad, established a sect and named it Mormon, and he located his kingdom on earth with his mortal followers, and he became master over the spirits of his mortal followers in the same way, calling himself the true Christ. Piad taught that all good Mormons could ultimately attain to rule over some planet and her heavens, but he never permitted the angels of his kingdom to go out of his reach. He also taught mortals that the more numerous progeny a man begot, the greater would be his heavenly kingdom in time to come. For this was Piad's scheme to make his own heavenly kingdom large and powerful. You and all your kids going to the first resurrection, my G. Sony, shalom, shalom, animalistic nature. You just got yours. Oh man, I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting. He also taught mortals that the more numerous progeny a man begot, the greater would be his heavenly kingdom in time to come. For this was Piat's scheme to make his own heavenly kingdom large and powerful, right? Like, because when they died, they're going directly to him, like they're waiting for you. And you were happy to go nonetheless. Fritz, shalom, shalom. Yeah, they had a lot of kids, Jamil. Another Drusian god, Loganus, established a kingdom on earth and named it Shaker Heaven, pretending he was the true Christ. I ain't really heard of him too much. First time I heard of Shaker Heaven was when I started reading the Waspy. I'm sure, but they out there though. That's got to be in the title today, Shaker Heaven. Another Drusian god, Loganus, established a kingdom on earth and named it Shaker Heaven, pretending he was the true Christ, and his place became a heavenly bondage unto himself. Another Drusian god, Siyawan, established a heavenly kingdom on earth and called it the all highest heaven. This Lord called himself the Lord. He raised up a mortal, Swedenborg, whom he took in spirit subjectively into many of the lowest heavens and hells, saying to him, behold, they that serve not the Lord, how hard it is with them. And he further said, this place of darkness is the Brahman heaven. That place of darkness is the Buddhist heaven. But this place of light is my heaven, I, the Lord. It looked like the Lord spoke a lot in the Bible too. He wasn't the only one, but he was in there. Thus did this Drusian god establish a Swedenborg heaven, and mortals looked upon him as the true Christ. And after death, their souls went thither. So it came to pass, as had been prophesied of old, lo, Christ here, lo, Christ there. 1, 2, 3 is crisis everywhere. Literally, it's crisis. This is a friggin' crisis. They everywhere. All of them. False, leading everybody astray. Thus did this Drusian god establish a Swedenborg heaven, and mortals looked upon him as the true Christ, and after death their souls went thither. So it came to pass, as had been prophesied of old, lo Christ here, lo Christ there. And as it was with Luamong's heavenly kingdoms, thus split into hundreds of remnants, even so was it with the heavenly kingdoms of the other false gods, Brahma, the false, and Buddha, the false, so that there were on earth thousands of petty gods, heavenly kingdoms of darkness and misery. Now all these Drusian gods, whether of China or Vidu or Arabenia or Europa or Gautama, rejected Jehovah, but took the name of one of the four false gods, and protested that he himself was the real and true God and Savior. So these ones that broke off from Luamong and all the other shenaniganizers that's now in remission, trying to fix up their big mess, they now have taken on the names of the false Christ. So a lot of people don't even know that there has been a change of guard, so to speak. They still think it's one from the very beginning. They have completely missed the multiple changes of guard, right? All the different guys, they just looking at everybody as one now, right? not realizing that everything is all chopped and screwed up. Now, all these Drusian gods, whether of China or Vidu or Arabenia or Europa or Gautama, rejected Jehovah, but took the name of some one of the four false gods and protested that he himself was the real and true God and Savior. And mortal sects that followed them did the same thing. And none of them practiced righteousness and good works, but were warriors and money getters for self's sake. God said, behold, I give a new testimony unto the nations of the earth. In the time I overcame and cast out the four heads of the beast, the acrimony existing between the different sects began suddenly to die out, and they spake friendly to one another. That's the end of that chapter. Chapter, oh yeah, 17. And I think this is what we picked up, the dawn of Cosmon. Yeah, so I read 17, and we'll pause. And I think I'll get the last page tomorrow and finish this, and we're gonna start all the way at the beginning, right? So we'll read that one last chapter. It might be two, I forget, but we're gonna start over tomorrow. We'll start from the beginning because we started with the last book first, kind of like how some movies give you a ending scene, then it rewinds and go all the way back to the beginning to tell you the story from the beginning, so you can see how it ended up here. All right. Chapter 17, at the top of the actual document in the left-hand corner, it says the dawn of Cosmon. Now, whilst the holy council were still sitting in paradise, a light like a star came and stood above the throne of God, and the voice came out of the light, saying, behold, the false gods are cast out and sent unto their places. Nevermore shall there be any other false god or Lord or Savior to lead my people away. I am sufficient unto mine own creations. Let this therefore be the beginning of the Cosmon era. So what we got here in the Cosmon era now is the residue of the last four heads of the beast being cast out. We hear about the four-headed beast in the Bible and other religions, but here the four-headed beast, while they're trying to actually name names and countries of the beast, is actually giving you the beast is religion. The beast has been cast out, right? It's just the remnants of the beast now that they're trying to wash up and clean up, right? Now, whilst the holy council were still sitting in paradise, a light like a star came and stood above the throne of God, and the voice came out of the light, saying, behold, the false gods are cast out and sent unto their places. Nevermore shall there be any other false God or Lord or Savior to lead my people away. I am sufficient unto mine own creations. Let this therefore be the beginning of the Cosmine era. My people have settled the whole earth around, from east to west. The lands on the western borders of Gautama have become inhabited. Go then, my son, open the gates of heaven unto mortals. Let the angels meet them and talk with them face to face, right? So we got to revisit kind of and put it in its proper context, that scripture that we see in the New Testament where it says, we don't want to get it all mixed up, right? Because technically angels are what we would term dead, right? But they're not dead. They were once human, but now they're fully born in spirit. So when we die here, we call it death, but it's actually life. And they're not dead, they're living. So when the creator said they can talk with us face to face, they're alive on that side, we're alive on this side, but there's this little split, right? And it's being chopped up, mixed up with doctrines about witchcraft and stuff. You got to be careful. You have to be careful. You really have to understand what's happening, right? Because if they're here to help us, and the Father is also in that realm, like fully all everything, because if they're dead, then that would mean that he's dead, but he's not. He forever lives. He's ever present, just like we will be when we won't be like him, clearly not of that magnitude. We still just babes being born. But what I'm saying is they have authority to talk to us and we can talk back, right? coming out of the church that's like, nope, we ain't supposed to be talking to the, it's just something that has to be worked out in a roadway of truth for you to like really understand. Tone the lonely one. Shalom, shalom. Listen, go then, my son, open the gates of heaven unto mortals. Let the angels meet them and talk with them face to face. Behold, my Ethereal ambassadress, Chevi and Shesivi and Athotes cometh in a sea of fire. The ship of the Ethereal goddess was seen descending from the higher heavens, coming as an open ring to embrace the whole earth. This is interesting. I just caught something right here that when we were looking in the El Paso OWASP, right? It's interesting. Okay, so here, such thing. Right here. Okay, so in Big Blue, this lines up with what Big Blue has, but the El Paso OWASP, and we talked about it a lot. I know y'all remember it because I was talking about, I was like, this said ships like it was more than one. So she came, it was a gang of them, right? So just one little S will throw you off. But this actually lines up with the Elois edition, right? I put an S here in my Elois edition, right here, and I got like question marks with all the like the extra letters added or whatever. But here in the Romance of the Red Star, there is not an S on ship, right? So that's the same as here in the lowest edition. The ship of the Ethereal goddess was seen descending from the higher heavens, coming as an open ring to embrace the whole earth. Swifter and swifter came the Ethereal archangels till all the heavens of paradise were encircled in the love of the Almighty. Then God called out the legions who had the matter in charge, where mortals had been born for the work of Jehovah's kingdom. And God said, open the gates of heaven. Let the angels of Jehovah speak with mortals. The times of the Father's kingdom is at hand. Open the gates of heaven. Let the angels come forth in power. And that is where we will pause at. And that is what we should be witnessing and experiencing today. Hence the high level of spiritual activity. But even the high level of spiritual activity in line with the creator also kicks up the dust at the bottom, and you got darker light also arising, trying to snuff out the light. But the light is always greater than darkness, right? Just stay on the road of light and you will continue to shine brighter and brighter, right? And the darkness, you ain't got to worry about the darkness. The darkness that's going to be like, the darkness of its own accord is just going to choose to leave you alone. Like, yeah, we tried it. We going to find somebody else to go mess with that. And and as it's walking away, the light around you get brighter and brighter, right? And may many, 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 many people be drawn to your light as you are lit by the Creator, and light up the world. Light up the world. All right, beautiful people. Let's hop on over here, read a little bit more about this reincarnation hoax with my girl, Susan B. Martinez. Okay, so we paused on page 225. 225, chapter 10, the reincarnation hoax. The last thing we talked about was the little blurb about karma. Yeah, and how reincarnation, different things that fall in line with that. It keeps you pushing off responsibility. Either have you looking ahead into the future, some future time of being saved by a savior, being able to come back and do it all over again, or karma, trying to fix from a previous life. Like, it has you focused in every direction except for the here and now, and taking responsibility for the here and now. So that's what we paused at. So go to the bottom of page 225. Right after, matter of fact, let's just reread the quote. We don't die, we multiply. Yeah, they think they do. Shibru. I use creator or great spirit. Oh, somebody must ask a question. I like that, Tabitha. We don't die, we takes off our uniform. Tabitha, you got something good here today, girl. She said, we don't die, we takes off our uniform, which is the human body, to allow the spirit to continue on eternally. I love that. We off duty here for now, right? I mean, we still on duty because we still got our flesh. All right, we still got our uniform on. All right. The bottom of page 225, quote, reincarnation has robbed man of his personal responsibility, reducing him to a state of spiritual impotence, end quote. Justin Titus, Eternal Progression. Of course, the moral escape hatch is attractive to the self centered soul. In this landscape, social conscience or duty need not trouble us. In the trenchant words of James Webster, quote, reincarnation paralyzes the initiative of millions. Those imprisoned by it rarely strive for social improvements or justice, for that would then deprive people of their karma, a merciless law of consequences, end quote. The narcissist, like his the narcissist, like his first cousin, the sociopath, both with deficient conscience, impresses us as someone bereft of natural emotions such as compassion or remorse. The shortfall known in psychiatry as, quote, no empathy, end quote, or flat affect, no show of feelings. And how well this doves and how well this dovetails with the reincarnationist heartless conviction that hardship and suffering come well earned, yea, deserved, by those who have yet to work out their evil karma. This fictitious version of, quote, God's justice, end quote, how awesomely does that go with the reading we just read today? Listen. This fictitious version of, quote, God's justice, end quote, presumably satisfies our sense of fairness. How satisfying is it to know that, quote, if a man has murdered another, he will be struck down by a murderer during his next incarnation, end quote. Kushana, 1970, page 77. The next thing you know, these, quote, just deserts, end quote, are a part of a formula that excuses every human atrocity merely by discovering its karmic origin. In the Jewish Holocaust, for example, the victims purportedly, quote, chose to be incarnated at this time to be the victims of the Holocaust as a selfless act of sacrifice to make us all aware that there were those who would attempt to rule and control humanity and that evil people existed, end quote. I'm sorry, but rejoins one reviewer, quote, aren't we already aware of the existence of evil, end quote. Picknett and Prince, 2001, page 194. But no, every horror and calamity known to man was meant to happen according to this fantastically. Pam, pull yourself together. That is not even a word. The word is fatalistic. But no, every horror and calamity known to man was meant to happen according to this fatalistic outlook, and that includes African slavery, genocide, natural disasters, accidents, wars, terrorism, and 9/11. Let me read it again. This fictitious version of God's justice presumably satisfies our sense of fairness. How satisfying it is to know that, quote, if a man has murdered another, he will be struck down by a murderer during his next incarnation, end quote. Kushana, 1970, page 77. The next thing you know, these, quote, just desserts, end quote, are a part of a formula that excuses every human atrocity merely by discovering its karmic origin. In the Jewish Holocaust, for example, the victims purportedly, quote, chose to be incarnated at this time to be the victims of the Holocaust as a selfless act of sacrifice to make us all aware that there were those who would attempt those there were those who would attempt to rule and control humanity and that evil people existed, end quote. But rejoins one reviewer, quote, aren't we already aware of the existence of evil? End quote. Picknett and Prince, 2001, page 194. But no, every horror and calamity known to man was meant to happen, according to this fatalistic outlook, and that includes African slavery, genocide, natural disasters, accidents, wars, terrorism, and 9/11. All of these things were allegedly planned and prearranged for souls to hasten their destiny. Quote, this disgusting doctrine found many believers in ancient times and has quite a number even to this day, end quote. John B. Newbrough, The Castaway. If y'all didn't know he wrote that, go look into that. It's called The Castaway. Quote, as it was in the olden time, so will it be again. Druhas or demons or disembodied one-time human beings who are still floating around here and they ain't got no business of their own. They getting in everybody else's business, just wreaking havoc. Now, Druhas will teach that the spirits of the dead go into woman and are born over again in mortal form, end quote. Thus spake Zarathustra, Owaspi, Book of Fragapati or Fragapati, chapter 30, verse 20. Be safe, Dawn. The Brotherhood of Elois tell us that the quote divine spark brought us into being at conception and a new I'm sorry. Let me start over. The Brotherhood of Elois tell us that, quote, the divine spark brought us into being at conception, a new creation destined to grow throughout eternity, end quote. The Elois publication, Radiance, February 1990, page 1. Quote, every man, woman, and child born into life, I quicken with a new spirit at the time of conception. Neither will I give to any spirit the power to enter a womb or a fetus to be born again. Beware, O man, of angels who say that a spirit re-entereth the womb and is born again in mortality. For these are the utterances of the angels of the first, lowest resurrection. Behold, I provide my heavenly praise. I'm sorry. Behold, I provide my heavenly places broad, boundless, so that the soul of man can never reach to the boundary thereof. My heavens are for raising the soul upward forever and ever. End quote. Owaspi, Book of Jehovah, chapter 6, verse 21, and Bond's Book of Praise, chapter 37, verse 2. In fact, the only way to, quote, reincarnate, unquote, or end quote, is to take over somebody else's body. It's called demonic possession. And that is possession, spirit possession, plain and flat. Go ahead and highlight that in your book. Like, you ain't got to believe it. You can like really watch this being tested out here, right? I found out that it's when you first learning, it's I don't know, it's kind of like a fine line till you get more become more aware of some of the shenanigans from the lower heaven, and then you got to test some of that lower heaven talk or the first resurrection talk based on what you hearing here. And if ain't nothing higher than that, we got a problem, Houston. It's a problem, right? It's shenanigans. Something happened down here. There's a break in the line of light. There's a problem. The red flags are going off. In fact, the only way to reincarnate is to take over someone else's body, and that is possession, spirit possession, plain and flat. As Stephen Blake, 2014, page 209, put it, the obsessor, quote, is no more an incarnation than a marionette is the incarnation of its controller, end quote. When a spirit maneuvers into someone's body and soul, it is then an obsessing spirit known to cause suffering both to itself and its victim. Experienced mediums are all too familiar Experienced mediums are all too familiar with this uninvited lodger. Grace Rocher, for one, warns of spirits who would try to use you in the wrong way. Those who know best sometimes describe these spiritual parasites, these freeloaders, as troublemakers, like Susie Smith, who warned that anyone who dies rebellious is a potential source of mischief, right? People who died in drive-by shootings and stuff. Yeah, they're on the list of potential miscreants causing havoc in the spirit realm, right there where they was causing all that trouble. Like they're gonna be lingering around. They old haunts, they're gonna be lingering around there, right? And it's possible they're gonna keep the violence party going, which clearly, if we pay attention and do some inspection of some of these places where all this stuff is happening, the more it happens, the more populated it gets in spiritual activity there, because these spirits ain't going nowhere, right? I've never seen a happy possession. Yep, ain't none of them really happy. They ain't too happy about it. Nick M. Shalom, shalom. Soon as you're born, you're dying. Soon as you die, you're living. I like that, right? That I like that. Right. Because soon as you're born into this realm, every day you get closer and closer to the day you die, right? And then, but when you die, you're actually living, right? This is a precursor to true life, right? I want to say that because this is like true life, but with restrictions. Not really restrictions. I can't really say that. Not really restrictions, just restrictions until you become of age and now you authorized to drive a car. Right? Let's just put it that way. Let's put it that way, right? Because when you're fully born, like you can't discount the lessons that we learn here, which will not nobody's ever said that, but yeah, I mean it's a part of the this is a part of the birthing period because we're inside of two wombs right now, like the womb of our flesh and the womb of this earth. But when we're born, we come out of this womb and then we enter into, yeah, y'all get it. Listen, in fact, the only way to, quote, reincarnate is to take over someone else's body, and that is possession, spirit possession, plain and flat. As Stephen Blake, 2014, page 2009, put it, the obsessor, quote, is no more an incarnation than a marionette is the incarnation of its controller, end quote. When a spirit maneuvers into someone's body and soul, it is then an obsessing spirit known to cause suffering both to itself and its victim. Experienced mediums are all too familiar with this uninvited lodger. Grace Rocher, for one, warns of spirits who would try to use you in the wrong way. Those who know best sometimes describe these spiritual parasites, these freeloaders, as troublemakers, like Susie Smith, who warned that anyone who dies rebellious is a potential source of mischief. Prince, shalom, shalom. Wait, did I already say? You was in here earlier. First time, shalom, shalom. Staffing, peace and blessings. Okay, page 227 at the bottom, last paragraph. Field Guide to the Spirit World. Joe Fisher, one-time member of a reincarnation cult, but turned whistleblower, came to see these past life selves as mischievous and possibly malevolent discarnates, Humans who no longer had physical bodies, neurotic entities who longed to live and breathe once more. 2001, page 270 to 271. Deeply involved for more than 3 years in channeling spirit guides who were espousing reincarnation, Fisher finally pulled away when he felt himself losing control. He was an impassioned wreck. Quote, I'd fly high, but then I'd come crashing down again. The more my centers were supposedly opening, the worse I felt. The emotional swings were phenomenal. Rapid cycling, I underwent raging storms of emotions, nostalgia, crying fits, great highs, depressive lows. End quote. Admitting his own gullibility, Fisher finally describes how these, quote, imposters and masters of deception were brainwashing me. It was magnificently done. End quote. 2001, page 249, 265, 224. Like, let me tell you something. If you on this road learning about reincarnation, I'm telling y'all, I was taking y'all there some months back because this doctrine is so alluring and they got it so well put together. I'm so glad. I'm so glad that something came and broke my state when it did because it is so alluring. And it's like they got an answer for everything. Almost, just almost. It almost had me, y'all. Like I was taking y'all there. I was taking y'all there. Let's stop and just give the Father thanks for stopping us before we got too far down some roads, right? Because it is not my desire, nor my purpose, nor my intent to ever lead anybody astray, right? But I was like, just coming out of Christianity, then to the Hebrew camps, and right into reincarnation. It's like they was trying to cycle me. Yo, listen, the Father is the best. Even in our ignorance, let me read this again. Let me tell you something, y'all. I'm telling y'all, it is so alluring. Let me just go back. I'm gonna just read this whole section again. Go back to page 227 to the middle of the page. In fact, matter of fact, no, let me just go back. Let's go back to the top of the page. Page 227. The Brotherhood of Elohim tell us that, quote, the divine spark brought us into being at conception, a new creation destined to grow throughout eternity, end quote. The Elohist publication, Radiance, February 1990, page 1. Quote, every man, woman, and child born into life, I will quicken with a new spirit at the time of conception. Neither will I give to any spirit the power to enter a womb or a fetus to be born again. Beware, O man, of angels who say that a spirit re-entereth the womb and is born again in mortality. For these are the utterances of the angels of the first lowest resurrection. Behold, I provide my heavenly places abroad. Behold, I provide my heavenly places broad, boundless, so that the soul of man can never reach to the boundary thereof. My heavens are for raising the soul upward forever and ever. End quote. OSB, Book of Jehovah, chapter 6, chapter 6, verse 21, and Bond's Book of Praise, chapter 37, verse 2. In fact, the only way to reincarnate the only way to, quote, reincarnate, end quote, is to take over someone else's body, and that is possession, spirit possession, plain and flat. As Stephen Blake, 2014, page 209 put it, the obsessor, quote, is no more an incarnation than a marionette is the incarnation of its controller, end quote. When a spirit maneuvers into someone's body and soul, it is then an obsessing spirit known to cause suffering to both itself and its victims and its victim. Experienced mediums are all too familiar with this uninvited lodger. Grace Rocher, for one, warns of spirits who would try to use you in a wrong way. Those who know best sometimes describe these spiritual parasites, these freeloaders, as troublemakers, like Susie Smith, who warned that anyone who dies rebellious is a potential source of mischief. Joe Fisher, one-time member of a reincarnation cult, but turned whistleblower. Joe Fisher, one-time member of a reincarnation cult but turned whistleblower, came to see these past life selves as mischievous and possibly malevolent discarnates, humans who no longer had physical bodies, neurotic entities who longed to live and breathe once more. End quote. 2001, page 270 to 271. Deeply involved for more than 3 years in channeling spirit guides who were espousing reincarnation, Fisher finally pulled away when he felt himself losing control. He was an impassioned wreck. Quote, I'd fly high, but then I'd come crashing down again. The more my centers were supposedly opening, the worse I felt. The emotional swings were phenomenal. Rapid cycling, I underwent raging storms of emotion, nostalgia, crying fits, great highs, depressive lows, end quote. Admitting his own gullibility, I'm sorry, gullibility, admitting his own gullibility, Fisher finally describes how these, quote, imposters and masters of deception were brainwashing me. It was magnificently done, end quote. 2001, page 249, 265, and page 224. On November the 1st, 1922, which is All Souls Day in Europe, a very famous deceased medium came through the small Wickland circle using the entranced Mrs. Wickland as the, quote, live wire, end quote. The, quote, visitor, end quote, was Madame Blavatsky X, one-time empress of the occult, high priestess of theosophy, and professor of reincarnation, all of which dogmas she recanted that evening. Before taking questions from the sitters, she remarked, quote, some may say this is not Madame Blavatsky, but do not doubt it. It is. They may say she would not say so and so, she would not talk so and so, but it is Madame Blavatsky, end quote. Much of her discourse seemed almost like a confession. She owned, quote, I was a medium and I could have done a great work, but I became obsessed. I had many earthbound spirits around me, end quote. And after it said, much of her discourse seemed almost like a confession. There's an asterisk, and down at the bottom, the asterisk says, for a complete transcript of the, quote, experience, end quote, see Wickland, 1974, page 351 to 50 to 357. So that reference, if you're curious about that, that reference is in the bibliography of this book. Just find that and you can go pull it up and read like the whole discourse on that event. They may say she would not say so and so, she would not talk so and so, but it is Madame Blavatsky, end quote. Much of her discourse seemed almost like a confession. She owned, quote, I was a medium and I could have done a great work, but I became obsessed. I had many earthbound spirits around me, end quote. It may have been her first, quote, airing, AIRING, end quote, since her death in 1891, though she declared in her opening words that, quote, there is no death, end quote. She called this a truth, not a theory. She hastened to tell her story and thus began by admitting her worldly ambition. Quote, I wanted to be a leader in some way or another. I studied reincarnation and I thought there was truth and justice in the theory and that we come back and learn and have more experiences. I taught it. but I was mistaken. Memories of past lives are caused by spirits representing the lives they lived. When I came to the spirit side of life, I learned that reincarnation is not true. Still, I did not want to believe that. I tried and tried to come back to be somebody else, but I could not. We cannot reincarnate. And this is her spirit after she's been passed on. Like they holding a whole channeling session. Just like, look, just like um Saul went to the medium. They outlawed all the mediums and stuff and called up Samuel. Like this in itself, listen, what's crazy about this is Saul goes to the medium in the Old Testament. I believe it's in Kings. Is it in Kings? No, I'm sorry. No, it's not in Kings. It's in it's in Samuel. Listen. Um so he goes to see the soothsayer, and he said, "Call up for me Samuel." Right? What's crazy to me is the soothsayer, when Samuel actually came up, she was taken aback, like, "Oh my God, who is you? This is really Samuel that came up." Like, wait a minute, let's pause. Let's unpack that real quick. If I came to talk to Saul, why are you so surprised that Saul came up? Yeah, the Witch of Endor. Thank you. The Witch of Endor. Why are you so surprised that Saul actually showed up? Isn't this who I asked for? Right? See, but the witches and the soothsayers knew that it was all shenaniganizing, and it was part of the shenanigans, right? They're the shenanigan ringleaders, or maybe the pawns and the tools of the shenaniganizers in the spirit realm, because most of the time the real people don't come, right? The real people don't come. They got this whole network of dark lines of light. And so the Witch of Endor was taken aback when true Samuel showed up. She darn near went into the spirit realm herself, right? So if nobody ever unpacked that, you might want to put that on the table. And just look at what's happening there. Listen, but this is her. She said, I was greatly mistaken, right? It's a great deception all the way through. Like Whoopi and Ghost, her house was full of them spirits. Yo, listen. Hold on. Let me go back up. Let me reread her thing again. It may have been her first airing or airing out her sins. Like I'm about to tell y'all the truth here. It's really me. Let me tell y'all what I found. Right? She was fooled just like Thoth was. Whew. It may have been her first airing since her death in 1891, though she declared in her opening words that, quote, there is no death, end quote. She called this a truth, not a theory, right? Because we never die. We really don't. We just pass our bodies back to the dirt, and we just keep on going in a different form, right? Energy is just converted, it just changes over. It looks a little different, but it's still here. It may have been her first airing since her death in 1891, though she declared in her opening words that, quote, there is no death, end quote. She called this a truth, not a theory. She hastened to tell her story and thus began by admitting her worldly ambition. Quote, I wanted to be a leader in some way or another. I studied reincarnation and I thought there was truth and justice in the theory that we come back and learn and we have more experiences. I taught it, but I was mistaken. Memories of past lives are caused by spirits representing the lives they lived. When I came to the spirit side of life, I learned that reincarnation is not true. Listen, she died in the Cosmon era, 1891, right? We're close to the 1900s, right? So it's a lot of spiritual activity. Remember, the angels is talking to us face to face and stuff now, right? So listen, Key, hey girl, hey. Ain't we though? Yo, I wanted to be a leader in some way or another. I studied reincarnation and I thought there was truth and justice in the theory that we come back and learn and have more experiences. I taught it, but I was mistaken. Memories of past lives are caused by spirits representing the lives they lived. When I came to the spirit side of life, I learned that reincarnation is not true. Still, I did not want to believe that. I tried and tried to come back to be somebody else, but I could not. We cannot reincarnate. We progress, we do not go back. When we go to the spirit side, we go on to a higher life. Kind of like um this reminds me of the dead man's wish in the New Testament, right? The one who the rich man who lifted up his eyes in hell while Lazarus was in the bosom of Abraham, right? Well, let me go back and tell my brother, because I got a lot of brothers that they're gonna come to this place. He said, you let them alone. If they don't listen to the prophets and Moses and the people that they got living there now, they ain't gonna believe if the spirit come back and tell them that this is not true, right? So it's like they're getting the dead man's or the dead woman's wish. Yo, y'all, reincarnation is not the truth. Look, look, Blavatsky X. I think this is actually her picture. Sheba just said, "Who is Blavatsky?" Hold on, what's her first name? The controversial HPPB. I think that's her. I think that's her, Madame Blavatsky. I think that's her. Shebrew. Can y'all see I'm trying to show her at the same time? Y'all see that? Cosmon, shalom, shalom. Nene, shalom, sis. Communicator, shalom. Hold on. Yeah, that's her. Helen. Thank you. Yeah, that's her initials. I don't know what the P stand for, but HPV, Helen Blavatsky. Yep, that's her. I'll show you again. That's her. She brew. Okay, that's figure 10.2, the controversial HPV. PB, I'm sorry. Blavatsky X, and remember when they put X at the end of their name, that means they're already like they've already died here. They've been fully born, right? So this is a now fully born spirit speaking. Blavatsky X said all in one sentence when she identified so-called memories of the past life as nothing more than thoughts or recollections conveyed by discarnates, or the thoughts and past lives and memories of those already born full in spirit, projecting their lives onto you, making you believe that this was one of your past lives. And if you fall into it, you actually open up all your chambers and all your doors and all your windows, and they're going to step right in. Thank you very much. Get on to the back seat, homie. Your job here is done. Now let's go. I got some unfinished business I need to take care of. Take me back to my old haunts. Blavatsky X said it all in one sentence when she identified so-called memories of past life as nothing more than thoughts or recollections conveyed by discarnates. It might be relevant at this juncture to mention that such transfer of thoughts relies on two often unseen factors. For one, the mortal recipient is probably psychic, which is to say, his door or valve, Robert Monroe's term, or whatever you may call psyche's portal, is ajar. Didn't I just say that? All your gates is open. You didn't open up all your gates. You didn't open up all your doors. You didn't open up all your windows, right? Your portals are open now. For one, the mortal recipient is probably psychic, which is to say, his door or valve, Robert Monroe's term, or whatever you may call psyche's portal, is ajar, whether he knows it or not. He has a high PSIQ. There are so many people in this category, most notably those who have been opened willy-nilly by an early trauma. She used one of my favorite words, willy-nilly. There are so many people in this category, most notably those who have been opened willy-nilly by an early trauma. If a head count of all these ambulatory mediums were somehow possible, I would guess that every third person would fit the bill. Just imagine us here out of 38. What is 38 divided by 3? That's how many just out of all this, including me, 39, right? How many? And that would be like even well, maybe not an even number set of threes, right? But it ain't gonna be like 3 3 and 1. It's gonna be 3 3 and 3, however that many is, going up to 39, I think. Don't quote me. I just looked at the odd number at the end. Listen, if a head count of all these ambulatory mediums were somehow possible, I would guess that every third person would fit the bill. While this factor speaks for the mortal side of the equation, the second factor involves the other side, specifically the circumstances in which our excarnate, our wannabe reincarnator, met his own end. Consult the extensive literature on alleged past lives, and a singular pattern soon emerges. Most died a sudden death. And after sudden death, there is an asterisk, and the asterisk at the bottom says, this circumstance is treated in depth in chapter 7 of my book, Delusions in Science and Spirituality. And if you don't have it, get it, because I think we're going to read it. Stand at the door and knock. Yeah, he waiting for you to open that door, yo. We're going to add it to the lineup. This is the book she's talking about, Delusions in Science and Spirituality. Chapter 7 is called Reincarnation, Body Snatching for Karma. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe after we finish this chapter, maybe I should just hop over here and read this. I mean, I'm just saying, hold on. What page is 284? Oh, you look. Oh, yeah. We got to add this in. Oh, snap. And she got little cartoon pictures. It goes from page 285 to 320. There is an in-depth, page 284 to page 320, a very in-depth little section about reincarnation. We got to read it. Let me put this here. So if y'all got it, y'all can pull it up, because we'll be done with this little chapter. She said this gets in depth here. Hold on. We're going to add this before we go to the next chapter, chapter 11. We got to. I mean, this is a part of it. This is one of the, not detours, but it's a needed detour. Yeah, I wouldn't call it a detour. It's part of it. That's what it is. Okay. Boom. This is Susan B. Martinez, Delusions in Science and Spirituality, the Fall of the Standard Model and the Rise of Knowledge from Unseen Worlds. It's by the same wonderful woman, our sister, Miss Susan B. Martinez. She come and hang out in the background from time to time. You can get it on Amazon. I don't remember if it's in Kindle, the electronic or PDF version, or Audible. I don't think so. I think the only one in Audible as of today, not saying it won't be in the future, hopefully all of her books go into Audible. Oh my gosh. If they need somebody to read them, I'll read them in Audible. But I think it'll be a whole lot better coming from her voice. And I'm going to have to read it straight without adding my own stories and ad libs and stuff. So I might not be the perfect person for that job. But whoever read it, I would gladly purchase it and listen to it. You got it? Okay, yeah. So once we're done with this, the reincarnation hoax, which we only got a few more pages. Yeah, page 242. So probably maybe like 2 days max, maybe 2 days max, and we'll finish this chapter. And before we go on to chapter 11, freeing the ghost, we're gonna hop over here and read this more in-depth portion right here. You got to go to work first time. Go ahead, clock in on the man's time. This is recorded. You can come back. And I'm gonna stop doing that because I know all y'all ain't gonna be working for the man. I work for the man, but the man just happened to be my husband. We work together, right? So I don't be doing just what I want to do all the time, for real. But yeah, this is recorded, and we about to end anyway because we're at 1 hour and 16 minutes. We're gonna probably pause. We're gonna pause after this this paragraph that I was just reading, which would be in like 2 minutes. All right, but let me finish reading this footnote. Hold on. Let me reread this last sentence, then I'll reread the footnote again. Well, I didn't even finish the whole footnote. I just read like the first sentence. While at the bottom of page 229, while this factor speaks for the mortal side of the equation, the second factor involves the other side, specifically the circumstances in which our excarnate, our wannabe reincarnator, met his own end. Consult the extensive literature on alleged past lives, and a singular pattern soon emerges. Most died a sudden death. And that's the asterisk. So let's drop back down to the bottom, page 230, and finish reading this. This circumstance is treated in depth in chapter 7 of my book, Delusions in Science and Spirituality. It is also a matter of record that persistent phantoms, when investigated by trained mediums, inevitably go back to a sudden death experience. Wilma Davidson, British psychic and spirit rescuer, once went on an organized, quote, ghost walk, end quote, and discovered that, quote, none of these poor departed souls seem to have had a normal death. They either died brokenhearted, were murdered, or worse. Several ghostly figures ran past us in the shadows, end quote. Oh, I don't know that I can be a ghostbuster. I'm already like, this is too much in here. I know the spirits is supposed to be, this is cosmic error, but y'all got break me in slow. Break me in slow. I'm still having trouble with scary movies. Look, and what's crazy is we scared of movies made in Hollywood. Hold on. We more scared of movies made in Hollywood than actual, like, I'm equally scared of both. I'm just trying to wait a minute, y'all. I'm just break me in slow while I'm learning. Like, don't just throw it all on me at one time. Just give me just I don't know, but don't scare me. Hold on. Several ghostly figures ran past us in the shadows, end quote. Davidson, 2006, page 72 and 61 to 62. Go back up to the top of page 230. That was the end of the footnote. An unusual statistic. It is a giveaway indicating the restive soul whose mortal life has been unfairly cut short, deprived of a smooth transition. The traumatized victim becomes fixated, still hovering at the edge of life, unable to move on. Some were children who died a violent death. Others died in a fire, yet others in war. Some were murdered. Others perished in an accident or natural catastrophe. Reincarnations have never been able to answer this obviously skewed statistic, whose true significance only comes to light when we factor in the earthbound penchant of these unfortunate souls. And this is what we're going to pause it after this quote right here. Quote, to induce the spirits of the dead to rise up from the earth, to make them put away earthly desires, to become pure and wise and strong. What an endless labor for thy creator and his exalted angels, end quote. And that's Owaski, Book of Judgment, chapter 15, verses 6 through 7. Spooky hour. I know, right? Listen, how about y'all? I don't listen for real. I don't know what's going on in my house. I wasn't even here, and my oldest son was here, right? Because all of us, with the exception of the two oldest boys and my grandbabies, this past weekend, we went to the wedding, right? But he was here, my oldest son, and my 19-year-old Jeremiah. He went to stay over at my mama's house with my brother and my nephew. So Elijah was here with his 3 kids, right? He calls me on the phone. He said, "Mom, I don't know what's going on in y'all room." He said, "But it sounds like somebody in there walking back and forth." I was like, "Oh my God, it's back." I said, "Go up here and see Elijah." I said, "You let somebody in?" He said, "No." Clearly, I know. We got cameras everywhere. So we ain't seen nobody walk in the house. We knew it was just him. I'm scared. Like, I thought about it. You know how some people, listen, I'm scared to do, I really want to do it, but I'm scared to do it for fear that it might actually work and I might see something. Because you know how today's technology is like really good and you can get, mama, stop. My mama said, "It's your dad." Listen, look. So he said, "Mom, it sounds like somebody is in you and dad's room, just walking back and forth." I said, "Well, walk in there." He said, "Walk in there and see. We about to walk out of here and we're gonna stay the weekend at Nani house." And so I'm like, for real, Elijah, go upstairs, go look in our room, right? I was like, because I cut everything off. Shouldn't nothing be on. I cut off the fans, the lights, all the lights. I think I may have left the closet light on, but just leave the door. Just go see. He said, "I ain't going up there." I said, "Well, you know what? It could be the wind blowing." The wind blowing? He said, "No, there is somebody. It sounds like somebody." He said, "And I ain't," he said, "I'm tripping, but I'm not." He said, "Because that day I came in here and you sitting down here in the kitchen, you said, I think it's somebody in my closet." He said, "I think you're right." He said, "I don't know. As long as they don't mess with me, we good. But I ain't going up there." And I'm so look, this morning when I was in the bathroom, I was like, you know what? I'm about to reach out to the sellers of this house. We done named this the Peace House. Now, mind you, for real, like the spirits don't be messing with us. It could look, it could be the floor settling, but going back and forth, going back and forth. Like Jeremiah's room is like right over the kitchen. Like, so I can hear him walking back and forth. Like, there's a difference between the floor settling and somebody walking on the floor. He said, "Mom, it sounds like somebody is walking on the floor from your closet to your door, from your door back to your closet." I'm like, I don't know, Elijah. I really don't. Pray it out. We'll be back Sunday. But for real, like I was saying, I be joking, but sometimes, no cap, I be scared as crap. And I be in there in the shower. Listen, most of the time, me and my husband shower together. But when I go in there and shower, I be imagining it's scared. The only thing that ain't really happening is scary music playing. I can't even close my eyes when I shower. Like, I gotta wash half my face, keep one eye open. I'm joking. I'm joking. But I do wash my face fast and hurry up and rinse it off so I can make sure. Because sometimes my husband can walk in the bathroom and one time he scared the crap out of me because I swear for Bob, I did not even feel his spirit come in the bathroom, right? But he just eased in there. When I turned around, we both darn near fell out the shower, snatching a curtain down. I was like, oh my gosh, what if we had a weak floor and we fell from the top floor to the bottom floor and both of us naked down there in the middle of the living room wrapped in a shower curtain? I be thinking of some stupid stuff, but sometimes I be scared taking a shower because you hear stuff, and sometimes I know my husband is like not even upstairs. Like I said, most of the time we'll shower together, but sometimes if I'm like in and out or if I've been cleaning, I'll go. But I do for real, for real. No cap. Hey, babe. I be scared in there for real, because I'd be scared that somebody gonna snatch the curtain open or something like that. I don't know. I be in there washing up, and if I turn around, I'm scared that I'm gonna see a spirit or something. I don't know. I got crazy thoughts be going through my head sometimes. Sometimes it's just watching too much TV. At least that's what my husband tell me. All right, y'all. But yeah, I told my husband last night, and he was like, "For real?" And that's all he said. I was like, "Yeah, Elijah." I said, I don't doubt it, because the other day when a book flew off the desk, he was like, "Book flew?" I said, "Yeah." Like, I was sitting there and the book flew off the desk into the floor. Like, it's the first time I told him that. So I don't know, y'all. I was thinking, I was like, I'm gonna really call the sellers of the house and see, like, if somebody like died here or something. I don't know, because here, do they have to disclose that here in Virginia? They don't have to disclose that here in Virginia, you know. But yeah, I don't know. But it very well could be my daddy and that whole little thing in my closet, the little thing. We ain't buried it yet. Okay. All right, y'all. That's it. We done for today. We done. I was just a little bit of this spooky hour stuff. All right, y'all. Look, let's get out of here. Y'all, it is Tuesday, January the 10th, 2023, day 311 of year 4, reading through the books of the law and the prophets under the 4-year consecutive day count, day 1330. Today, we read a little bit more in the book of Cosmon. I read it from the PDF, but I'll probably be reading it from the screen tomorrow. But it's like it's 18, like I said, I don't remember exactly. I gotta pull it up and look. It's like one or two more chapters of chapter 18 and possibly 19. It could just be the rest of chapter 18, because my last page is gone for some reason, the ones I printed out. So we'll finish reading up that tomorrow, and we'll start over all the way at the beginning. And we read a little bit more of chapter 10, the reincarnation hoax and the field guide to the spirit world. And when we get done, remember, we're going to jump over here and read the in-depth study that she did of reincarnation and delusions in science and spirituality. But where we paused at today was we started on page 225 and we paused at the middle of page 230. All right, beautiful people. So with that being said, thank y'all for hanging out. Father, we thank you that you are not just, but you are also always true. All right, beautiful people. I love y'all, and I will see y'all back here tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace.